The people of the UK, the British Isles, are sovereign, always have been sovereign. We work on a so-called democracy where we, every 4 or 5 years, vote in a government that we believe is good for our lives, our families' lives, and so on. And then in the 4 or 5 years, if we don't think they're doing what they said they're going to do, another party says they're going to do the stuff that you want, and you tend to vote them in. Okay, not a great system. Not a system that tends to work either, to be honest. Because the parties always promise you the earth and then give you a piece of soil, a piece of rubbish on the floor. But at the end of the day, we are sovereign. The people are the ones that are supposed to control the country. We give the authorization to the government to protect us, to be able to do trade deals, etc., etc. So when Parliament was asked the question whether or not we should give something as important as the EU referendum to the people, give the people the choice, they voted 6-1 to give us that choice. It was quite clear on the referendum whether we stay or leave the EU. Also, on many occasions, David Cameron and George Osborne was on TV in interviews stating that if we was to leave the EU, we would also be leaving the single market because they're intertwined with each other. Now, why would we need to leave the single market? Well, if we stay in the single market, then we have to go under their rules and their regulations. But also, because we're in the single market and customs union, we would not be able to do our own trade deals for the rest of the world. That's why it's important that when we took the vote, we understood that we was going to be leaving the EU and the single market so we could trade globally ourselves rather than having someone from Brussels who we've never heard of do it for us. I mean, who is better to actually do our trade deals for us? People that live and were born in our country, or someone that's in Brussels that don't really give two fucking shits about us? You ask yourself that question. Now, we're coming up to the parliamentary votes tomorrow, I believe, where MPs get to choose whether they want to activate Article 50 or go against the will of the people. Now, quite a few Labour MPs have now come out and said he's going to go against Jeremy Corbyn's view on the free whip, and they're going to go against the people. And their argument is that we voted to leave the EU, but we never voted to leave the single market. But that goes on to the first part of my conversation in this video, where I quite clearly stated, and it's a fact, that both George Osborne and David Cameron was the head of the Remain camp, actually stated that if we was to leave the EU, we would also be leaving the single market. Now, at any point in that period of time before the EU referendum, did any one of these MPs turn around to David Cameron or go on TV on an interview and say, well, actually, no, because what we're doing is we're actually voting to leave the EU, we're not voting to leave the single market? No, is the answer. But yet they are still willing to go against the people, the sovereign people. They're still willing to go against the vote on the 23rd of June. So what's right? Is it the people or is it government? You make up your mind.